Cool. Yeah, so okay. Just let me know when you can see the screen. You guys can see the screen, right?
Yeah, it looks.
Let's see. Cool. So yeah, so today I want us to look at some other things we can do with our functions. Yeah, bow. So I'm just gonna close that on the side. Maybe I should use one of okay, cool. Let's do that. I'm just gonna copy this guy that we had from 2 lessons ago, I think, or if not, yeah, 2 lessons ago. So we had a function whereby we ask for two arguments, your parameters, x and y, and then you have to supply x and y, right? So there is, let's say, like, do you see how print works, right? So if I want to print something, I can go print 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? It allows me to do that, right? But then actually print allows you to have as many arguments as you want. So infinite number of arguments. So you can actually have whatever. So we are trying to get to that point. So we're just going to move a bit slowly, but like I named today's the name of the file today to optional. So we're going to be looking at optional parameters or arguments, optional arguments. So let's say you have, so I'm going to say print, actually no, say hello, right? Like we had other time. And then we expected you to have to pass in a name, right? And then we'll say print hello name, right? And then the only way to run our function hello is to pass it something there, right? So I'm just gonna run that. It's in right. So it says hello name. Let's say we want to give our function the ability to run without actually passing anything there, right? So that means we have to make our parameter name an optional argument. And how we can do that is we can give it a default value there, right? So let's say I said false, right? You see that? As soon as I said, okay, this is false, I give it the false value there with the equal sign on my parameter. It doesn't complain anymore. You saw the red went away. But if I do that, this is not an optional argument. But as soon as I use the assignment operator within my function definition, then it changes the function to being optional. So now let's do something like, right? When the name is not supplied, we give the default value to unknown. So if I run this function, it will say hello unknown, right? But if I run it with Jack, then it says, hello, Jack. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you have your optional parameters. So I don't know if you have any questions now.
No, I think this one is clear.
Okay. So then if I was to say to you, use the same function to accept a name and a surname, right? And yeah, so your name, your surname, and your age. So you accept 3 parameters, right? Or 3 arguments. You expect 3 arguments, and then your age is optional, right? How would you do that? So I'm just going to comment those out. So I'm going to call the name of the function get profile. Yeah. And then I said you accept three arguments: your name, your surname, and your age. So how do you suggest I write the function? Anyone? Anybody? Come on now. Goes nuts.
You want something that will be in the parentheses or both parentheses and the function?
So I said it should accept 3 arguments, right? Yeah, your name, your surname, and your age, and then we'll print out something in the function to do with that information, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So just put name, comma,
name, comma, surname, yeah,
comma, age.
okay. And then if I wanted your surname to be optional, what would I do? Actually, before we do that, so we're going to print out something to the function. So I'm gonna use that. What's up?
No, it's okay.
So that's how to print out. My name is that, and I am 8 years old, right? Okay. So if you want, you could actually do something like let's do that. Why am I doing that? Right. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I'll go boom there.
It's about time.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Right. How old are you, dog? God damn.
21.
So if I run this function, it'll say my name is Nkosina T99. And I am 30 years old, right?
Mhm.
Now, like, yeah, I said, what if you wanted your surname to be optional? What would you do?
First, I'll make sure that there's a space between name and surname.
Okay. What you want? Is this what you want?
And
Huh?
then
Oh, actually, I'm gonna do this, man. I'm gonna do this. Let's just make it. Right. Fine, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Surname, there in the definition, in line 14, surname equals
yeah.
empty string.
Okay. Cool. Look at that.
What? I didn't see that. Where are my glasses?
You see that? See what it's saying?
Non-default argument.
So now let's see if I switch them around. You see that? Same thing. You see that?
Okay.
It's not allowing me to do that. You wanna guess why?
Put surname at the end.
Ha.
That laugh.
Huh?
I'm saying that laugh.
No, I said aha. That's not a laugh.
Oh, maybe it's my earphones.
Yeah. So why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, probably the order that the program works. If you have the one that is non optional before it creates a disruption.
Yeah, because when you call your function, you call them in the order of what of the parameters that you're giving to them, right? So you call it with I could say name there, right? Age there, it being one, right? And then a third one there, right? Now, if I make the first one optional, it means this should be empty like that, right? And then that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to not have things that we don't need. So to make it easier in the definition, so that you don't have a bunch of commas and all of that, you put it at the end because you're saying, okay, from the back. So the last one can be optional, but if the second last one is optional, then the last one cannot be optional, right? So like now I can actually make this optional as well, right? I can do that. But so you move from the back going to the front. So I can actually make all of them optional here. You see that? Now all of them can be optional. I can actually call my function in this way, right? Now, yeah, the first one says that. The second one is say my name is unknown and I am that, right? Or right? You see that? So yeah. And one other thing that you can actually do, since let's say you only since everything is optional right now in this case, right? So let's say you only want to use the surname, right? There's actually a way to do that. So when you do this, you can actually name your argument. So I can actually say name equals to right, and then it'll say my name is John Paul and I am 25 years old. You see that? So now when you do that, it will actually say, okay, in my function, the parameter that's named surname, I will give this value to that in the function, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you actually, when you do this, you actually don't have you don't need to order them, and or age equals to 26, right? So you can do that, right? Or you can mix it up. You can say, okay, your name is Paul. I'll do another one. Your name is Paul, right? You can do that, and then your surname is how do you whatever that surname is. But anyway, right? So now since so it will substitute name for because name corresponds to the first one in there, and then surname with that because we don't have age in that case, right? So you can actually do that, and then my name is Paul Pokemon, right? And I'm 25 years old. Understood?
Understood.
Yeah.
Oh wait. So now we're going to
How would you, if let's say for example, to doing an input, allowing
yeah.
user to put in an input,
What do
can
you
you
mean?
do it like let's say for example the person must input their name and sort of,
Okay.
and you put it into that into the function.
You want
Can
to
you
put it so you want to say okay, name equals to input. Please. Is that what you want? And then I can use that in my function there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. So we can run our program. Please enter your name. So my name is Jason Doe, and I'm 25 years old. So how you get your input or your data doesn't matter. So you can, yeah.
Thanks for that question.
Cool. So let's say now, okay. So we know like we're gonna change since you've asked that. Let's say this is our function now, right? With get profile has that, and like if the person does not have a name, we want to ask them for a name, right?
Okay.
So how would you do that? So in the case that the person has not supplied us with a name, then we want to ask them for their name. Like, no, so please enter your name, right? Because they haven't supplied the name in the function. So how would you do that? That's the question.
So you see there in line 14?
Line 14. Yeah.
It'll be name is equal to, and then I'll choose a variable, maybe a variable of your name, and then in line, will I put it in line 15? I think in line 15, then I can use that variable and do input for that variable.
No.
Say type your name.
Wait, which line?
wherever you are, 15.
Okay.
Mm.
Huh?
Yeah, is equal to input.
Okay. So I'll do that, right? I'll remove.
Yes.
I'll yeah, and
You take your name, you put it there in line 14.
line 14 here.
Yeah.
No, that's what I heard you say that. That's what I was like. No, you can't. You can't. You're defining your name there, but you want to use it there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can't use you can't use it before you define it, right? So this line 14 comes before 15. So you can't use full name there before you define it. So if you wanted something like that, you'd have to put that thing outside your function. Like you'd have to have some kind of name on the outside and then assign it there, right?
Can you
Okay.
put it in 16?
Sorry?
16.
What about 16?
There's his full name equals F, and then the first curly brackets it says name.
Okay.
Equals your name.
So you want me to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not answering my question, right?
Oh, I'm trying to fix the issue.
Well, eh?
Your name. I wanted to say name equals your name.
You want your name equals to your name.
Yeah. Not your name equals your name. I wanted to say name equals your name.
Oh, we're on line 16. So
There's that curly brackets that you were inside just now.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you assign something within an assignment?
Uh you mean something like name. Want me to say name equals to name there.
Yeah.
It's not complaining. It doesn't work. So it's not complaining. Something is wrong with IntelliSense because you shouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. So what are you saying? Because my question is, so like we've given the user the ability to not supply us with a name, right?
Okay.
So I want that in the case that the user has not supplied us with a name, right? You should ask them for their name. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So how would you do that? So first of all, how would you know that the user did not supply us with a name?
The function
Huh?
would return the default.
And what's the default?
An empty space now.
Okay, sharp. Now, yeah, follow through with that. You know that in the case that the user has not supplied us with the name will be an empty space. So I want that in that particular case, ask the user to supply us with a name.
And then we take that name back into the function.
No. Inside the function, we want to do that within the function, not outside the function.
If name is the default,
So if name is that,
then you have that input.
this one in there. Yeah, so that's what I wanted, right? So you understand why I assigned your name to name, right?
No.
Because we're in here, we're using your name. because we know that that's the one that we'll change, right? So this is the variable that we're using. So I'm saying in the case, because if I don't give your name a value, and I'm using it here, and we never enter this space, your name will not be defined, right? Because you'd only be defining it within this space. So, but when I define it there, I'm saying, okay, give the initial value for your name to the name that we have there, right? But in the case that that name is the default, then we change it. And then when we get here, we have access to that name, right? So now I'm going to run it again. Huh?
Say that again.
So I'm saying here is the name, right? The name might come in as a default or the name that a user has given to us, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, since the variable of choice within our function is your name, and we want to use the name that's used or a new name in the case that the name is not supplied. So I'm saying sharp, initially just assign that to your name to name, right? And then if our name was not supplied, because this is what this line means, right? It means our name was not supplied. That means now we change our name to that. And then that's the variable we're using here. If I don't have this line, right?
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen? Like if I'm going to,
not gonna work.
sorry?
The line 18 won't work.
Yeah, you see, local variable, your name reference before assignment, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need,
So
yeah?
that your name part, right?
Which
Could
one?
we have the assignment we did in 15, right?
Yeah,
If we didn't do that assignment in 15, would we
yeah.
continue to 17 and 18 with just the variable name?
Sorry, repeat that.
Could we just continue? Let's say we did not do that assignment in 15.
Okay, like
Then
that.
when we go, yes.
And
So
then
when we go to,
we use name there.
yeah, even in 17.
Yeah, but then how would you be getting the new name in that case?
Huh?
How would we get the new name in that case?
New name.
I
No,
mean,
that name, that 17 also use name only.
you want me to use name here?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the question Mawala's asking, I think.
Yeah, no, this will work, right? But you remember what I said yesterday?
Hmm?
We should avoid changing our inputs, right? That's one thing you should avoid. Like in this case here, you are changing the input that you got, right? The variable that you got that we're using as name, you are changing it. It's not good practice to change your inputs. Your inputs,
Oh,
like when we did the sorting, remember, we sorted our list and then the original list changed.
okay.
Yeah, so we don't, that's why, that's one other reason we are using your name as, because we want to, yes, we want to use name, but we don't want to change our inputs.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Are we good?
Yeah, let's run it.
Run it. Hands in the air now. Okay, I'm going to comment those out.
Leave 25.
25. Oh, okay. 25. 25 is, my name is Paul Pokemon and I'm 25 years old, right?
Oh, I misread it.
No, it's fine because we're testing them and then we could just do that, right? And then we have Paul Pokemon and then we can have, what's the surname again? Yeah. Oh, Jane Pokemon. Okay. Right?
There.
Huh?
Fede.
Yeah. So you're good, right? So I'm actually going to just Come on now. I just push that up. Cool. I just want to open the new one. So, remember when I started the lesson, I asked, I spoke about the print, right? And how print accepts multiple arguments, and you can actually supply as many arguments as you want, right? So let's say you want to add numbers, right? Like you want to create a function whereby you want to add numbers that are supplied to it, right? Like let's say you want to add so what am I'm going to call this calculate again. Calculate. And then we have x and then we want to return x and return x plus y, right? So now let's say we have z, right? And we say, okay, z is optional, right? And if z is not supplied, what are we going to make it? We're going to make it 0, right? And then we can add z, right? Come on now. Now, when z is not supplied, it won't affect our sum because what? Because z is optional, right? Now, let's say you wanted to, if the guy does not supply y, right? You want to do the same thing, right? Now, when the person does not supply z, we want to do the same thing. Now, what? Do you guys see what I'm trying to get at? So let's say you do not, come on now. Let's say you do not know how many numbers you're going to add, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously you cannot have what's this? You cannot have infinite parameters. You can't program your infinite parameters into your code, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a way to do that so that you can have that functionality. So this is called, so you use the star notation, right? So you do something like, so I'll remove that. Actually, let me calculate. I'll just call this underscore calculate. I'm not going to use it. Then we can compare them. So, and then we have the calculate. So we use the star notation, right? And then we can use something like that. So now I actually just want us to see this. I'll explain it to you now. Nope. What happened now? Okay, that won't work because I did not actually run it. So let's say I supply 1, right? Come on now, I did not print it out.
Are you okay, Mawar?
No, I'm okay. I just didn't print it out, bro. Or you acting up? So you look at that. You see what happened?
Okay.
So now I'm gonna print the 2. See what happened? I'm gonna print the 3. I'm gonna add a 3 to. You see what happens? I wanna tell me if you see what's happening.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Well, even though in that parameter it's only one parameter, but because you have the star, you can add as many arguments as.
And then what's the type of our arguments?
Oh, numbers.
Okay, I'm going to print
Isn't
this out.
yes.
I'm going to print this out, right? Type args. You guys understand why I'm calling it args, right?
Argument.
Yeah, because it's argument. So that's what we'll use for arguments. You see what it said?
Tuple.
Yeah. So so what what the star notation does, right? It takes all your arguments and then packs them into a tuple, right? Or like I've been calling it a tuple, right? But yeah, so it packs it into a tuple, and then you can have access to those things within your tuple, right? So so now let's say we wanted to add the numbers within our arguments, right? So how are we going to do that, since we know that our arguments is now in the form of a tuple? How would we do that?
Please repeat that.
So I'm saying now we know that when we use the star notation, right, our inputs are packed into a tuple, right? And then in this case, we want to add our inputs. Like we have 1, 2, and 3. Our calculate function, we want our calculate function to give us 6, right? We want to add those things. So I'm just saying, how would we do that?
We can do the for loop.
Okay, so I'm going to say for what?
For I in args.
For I in args, okay. Yeah.
Total.
Sorry.
We gotta add it. So the total.
Total
Plus equals to I.
plus equals to I.
But before that, we have to define that total.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what we want to, come on now, what we want to return is our total, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then now when we do that, we get 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as much as it's good we're calling it args because it's our arguments, right? But sometimes the name of our function kind of dictates what we're dealing with in a way. We'll learn more about that when we do validations. But for now, we can actually call this numbers, right? You don't have to, it doesn't have to be args. It can actually be any variable you want it to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so since we're dealing with numbers, we can just call that numbers, and then we can actually call that one number, so that kind of reads well. So if you've seen, the reason we've been using I in range or I in something, normally when I use like your I, J, K's, we haven't used K yet, but that's because I'm looking at iteration. I'm more interested in the iteration than anything else, right? So that's when my I will represent the iteration I'm on, right?
Okay.
So you get me? So like I'm trying to find a number within a range, right? Within a certain range. And then I'm saying for I in range, because it represents the iteration I'm on. Or maybe even number might make sense, because sometimes it's not, your iteration is not always in so your for I in some range that does not start from 1 or 0 will not mean iteration, because I'm starting my I at 60, but 60 will actually be iteration 0. So that's not most of the time. I try to make I try to have the code read well. Like here, since we're calculating, we're saying the total. We start the total with 0. I would use sum here, but we know that sum is a built-in function, right? And it's a keyword, so we can't use that. So that's why I used total, because we're summing the numbers here, but total is the next best thing in this case. So just so if so now if you understand Python and then you're just coming here and looking at this code, you can actually quickly see what it's doing. It says, okay, calculate, okay, you have your numbers and then your number and then, oh, okay, you're just adding numbers together. So it's quick to understand, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I try to, my variable names tend to make sense so that it's much easier to read. Even for yourself, like you might write code today where the variables don't make any sense. When you look at that code, the same code a month from now, and you're like, what was I doing here? Because you don't have the context. A month from now, you might not have the context that you have in the moment that you're coding it in. So it's always best to name your variables accordingly and your functions accordingly. You good?
Yeah, we are.
Cool. So let me see. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, actually, I spoke about search. I'm going to give you. I'm going to send the other ones, but I want you to. And
Wait, level.
yeah, go ahead.
Before you do that, let's say, for example, there in the line 15, when you were calling the function,
Sorry.
let's say for that line 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the person puts in all those three things, and then
Yeah.
you wanna do three activities, but in the whatever that you wanna do, you wanna select specifically maybe the second one or the third one. How would you do it?
Repeat that.
I'm saying in the function, right?
Yeah.
So you wanna work with this, maybe let's say line 8, you wanna work with number 1, and then line 9, you wanna work with option number 2, and something like that.
Okay, let's look at that now. So I was just trying to write this out.
I know with list we had that indexing, so I just want to know if it will work with this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, come on. What's the difference between lists and tuples?
It's the same. They're not that different.
Yeah.
A
So
tuple
sorry?
is this not mutable?
Yeah. So that means you can actually use it the same way as a list, right? So you can you can use indexing on your list. You can do whatever, but you actually need to make sure that you know what happens when you index something out of range, right? So if the list is 3 and you try to index 3, right, you know that that's out of range, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or if you try to index 5, but the length of the list is 3, right? So that will give errors within your problem, right?
Let's say when I wanna index here in this one, right?
Yeah.
Well, I index by say, let's say numbers, then I index that on numbers or what?
Yeah, you can go print numbers, right? And then 1, and then this should give us 2, right?
Okay.
So there it prints 2 there, and then 6, because 6 is what we're printing at the bottom. But you can do it. Nothing is stopping you. You just need to be careful that and make sure that what you're indexing is actually, you can index it, right?
Okay.
So this is so here I said some list, but actually let me just call it right? So it's just something you can iterate on, right? So I just call it some ITR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying return the position of the key in some iteration, or -1 when key is not found, right? You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want you guys to implement. So we'll check this one out on Monday. I might just work out some other things and then give those to you as well.
Okay.
But I'm gonna push this up, and then yeah, you can just copy. So that's the function. Your function takes in two things, an iterable and a key. So you're trying to find this key in there, right? That's what you're using to search. And then you should return -1 if the key is not found, or and then the index of that if it's found, right? So like if input is like if input is a string ABC, right? And the key, so if my that is that, and key equals to B, right? Then I should get return 1, right?
Okay.
And then if I say my right, if we get that, and then my key is 6, then I should return -1, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to push this up for you. Yes. And the thing is, you should not use any built-in functions. You should do in the sense like, there's a function on your lists called index. I think that it's also on your strings as well. So it gives you an index. So I don't want you using that. You have to implement the logic yourself.
Hmm?
I'm saying if I was to say, like I have a list, right? 1, 2, and 3, right? And I say dot index of 2, right? This gives me,
Oh, the position of 2.
this gives me 1, right? Which is the position of 2, right? And then if I go 6 and do that, that actually bombs, right? It's an error. You see that? Because 6 is not there within that list. I don't want that to happen. I want you to return -1. I want you to return -1 when it's not found, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we'll actually, when we start doing error handling, we will improve this search thing to do the same thing, but we'll make sure that this does not error when the thing is not found, right? And then that's what we'll look at. But I need you to do that. So you shouldn't use any special whatevers. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Yeah. So I pushed it up. You guys should have access to it by now. Cool.
Yep.